handholding session, other students made fun of them, yelled inappropriate slurs, and used anti-gay language. Some students claimed that it was sending the wrong message about being gay by using same-sex handholding as a form of punishment. However, the principal had many supporters at the school, and they reminded everyone that it was their choice to hold hands, and that it was never meant to reinforce negative thoughts about gays. Segregated lunchroom. Being refused lunch as an entire student body doesn't sound so bad after hearing this story. A group of Hispanic students was refilling their cooler with a water jug when they ended up spilling water all over the floor. All it would have taken is a mop to clean up the harmless mess, but instead, the vice principal, who was an African American, decided to punish all of the 5th grade Hispanics, some which weren't even there on the day when the water was spilled. What do you think their punishment could be for spilling a little bit of water? Well, it turned out that it was to eat lunch on the ground with nothing but paper liners separating their food from the dirty and disgusting gym floor. For 10 days, those Hispanic students sat on the floor eating off of thin sheets of paper while the African American students sat at lunch tables with trays and poked fun at them. When their teacher told the children to tell their parents about what was happening, the good-hearted mentor was fired, but when the students' parents did finally find out, 7 out of the 15 families involved sued the school, winning a $500,000 lawsuit. The teacher that was fired also received $75,000. Sadly, this story goes to show that segregation is still ever present in today's society, and even in our elementary schools. Bullied by the teacher. At one particular school, the kids aren't the ones you need to look out for. Rather, it's the teachers. One day in a kindergarten class, 5-year-old Alex, who has autism, kept disrupting class by kicking the other students, throwing and eating crayons, and crawling under tables. Unable to stop this behavior, the teacher sent him to the principal's office. After a discussion with the associate principal, Alex returned to the class. When he returned to class, the teacher had already devised a method of punishing him and told him to stand in the front of the class and instructed the other students to tell him why they didn't like him. After all the students have told their opinion about Alex, she went on telling him that she hated him and didn't like him at all. When she went on asking other students whether or not Alex should be allowed to stay in the class for the rest of the day, and only 2 good-hearted students took his side while the other 14 voted him out. Humiliated by the teacher and his class fellows, poor Alex spent the rest of the day in the nurse's office and suffered severe emotional damage following the incident. With that type of adults who are supposed to be role models, it's no wonder where children learn how to be bullies. Strip search. Apparently, one school thought all they needed was a hunch to strip search a student when the vice principal caught a girl with prescription-strength ibuprofen. She said she got it from Savannah Redding, an honor roll student who had no prior substance or disciplinary issues. After hearing this rumor, the vice principal and the administrative assistant pulled her out of class to check her backpack. When they did not find any trace of drugs in her bag, the vice principal ordered the school nurse to strip search because he was convinced that she was carrying them in her underwear. She was asked to shake out her bra and pulled the elastic of her underwear to see if anything would fall out, but no drugs were found. Now, being a 13-year-old girl is already hard enough, but when you're forced to take off all of your clothes in front of a stranger, it could take a toll on your emotional well-being. Humiliated, she left the school and understandably did not want to come back ever. The girl's mother filed a lawsuit that reached the U.S. Supreme Court 6 years later. Fortunately, the court agreed that the search violated the student's constitutional rights, and she won a long-winded battle. Draw or none. Apparently, kids nowadays illegal, such as shoplifting the candy bar they've had their eye on. But this school district took things a bit too far. There have been so many youth arrests at the Meridian, Mississippi School District that the Department of Justice had accused it of running a school-to-prison pipeline. For at least 6 years now, a minimum of 7 students of color were suspended and even arrested for minor infractions that included wearing inappropriately colored socks, being tardy, and racing to the bathroom without permission to prevent an embarrassing accident from occurring in class. After being arrested arrested, they were thrown in jail without a hearing or a right to an attorney, and most of them didn't even understand their rights, considering that some of them were as young as just 10 years old. The worst part is that the parents had no idea until the child was in lockup, and they would sometimes stay in jail for days at a time. In addition to this, a large number of students with disabilities were expelled or suspended at alarming rates for similar minor violence. The Department of Justice reported the issue to Lauderdale County, and after no response, they filed.
Like and subscribe now, or you're gonna have bad luck this week.
Tigers are the largest of all the living cats. Over the course of 2 million years, nature fine-tuned them as master predators. Hunting alone, a tiger can take down prey 4 times its own size. But that doesn't mean it's the most vicious animal out in the wild. While they're definitely strong, some animals can still defeat a tiger in a duel. Let's have a look at 10 animals that can defeat a tiger. The animal at number 1 is actually known to kill tigers, so stay tuned for that. Number 10, the Indian gaur. The gaur is a big relative of the cow and is the largest known wild cattle on the planet. In fact, they are bigger than bison, water buffalo, and the Cape buffalo. They are found in South Asia and are particularly vulnerable. As they are the heaviest and most powerful of all the wild cattle, they hold a special place in the wild. This beast is known to be a tiger's favorite type of meat, but it's not easy to kill a gaur. The male of this species are extremely muscular and powerful, able to generate enough power to be deadly to predators, humans, and other domestic cattle that are unfortunate enough to provoke them. These muscle-bound beasts, which look like they are on steroids, are 3 to 4 times heavier than the tiger. Their menacing horns can lethally impale a tiger, and a well-placed kick can shatter its skull. There have been many cases of gaur flooring tigers in India, and we all know a disabled tiger is as good as dead in the merciless jungle. Its certain fate is starvation to death, as it can no longer hunt. Number 9, crocodile. Like tigers are the biggest predators in the jungle, the crocodile is the most ruthless predator in the water. So, who would win in a one-on-one fight with each other? You might not believe it, but the winner would be the crocodile. Crocodiles rely on the initial bite to grab onto their prey, and if it's able to, it's game over for the tiger. Crocodiles have a very strong jaw and more teeth, so they win in terms of bite force. The Nile crocodile has a top bite force of 5,000 psi, pounds per square inch, which is perhaps the highest actual bite force ever recorded, compared to the tiger's measly 1,000 psi. Crocodiles usually devour their prey by using the death roll to deteriorate them, which is why they grab the prey, spin it around to tear its flesh off, and then eat it. It'll do this until you're gone. Researchers believe that the crocodile would be no match on the land, but in water, there's very little chance of a tiger victory. An incident happened at night in Calcutta, India, in which a crocodile and a tiger fought overnight. It was a massive fight between the 2 powerful predators, and could end up only when one had been killed. As daylight broke, the crocodile emerged with victory. Number 8, grizzly bear. If there's one land animal that can take on a tiger head-on, it's the bear. Both the tiger and the bear are the undisputed lords of their respective habitats. We all know tigers prey on large animals, deer, moose, and wild boars, and yes, bears. The later amount accounts for 5% of all main courses on the tiger's menu, but those are the innocent Himalayan bears. When it comes to the grizzly bear, it's a whole different ballgame. Grizzly bears are giant beasts with great physical strength. They are a smaller species of the brown bear, native to the jungles of North America. The grizzly bear sits on top of the food chain. They get their name from their white-tipped or grizzled fur. When compared to tigers, grizzly bears definitely have the advantage of size. They are bigger and heavier. They have strong paws that can do good damage to their opponent. Their body fat also keeps them safe from enemy blows. The tiger has skills and speed, so it surely would be an intense battle. My money is on the big bear. What about you? Number 7, lion. Lions and tigers are among the most ferocious animals, but there are important differences between them. They are both among the 5 big cats and are apex predators, meaning they reside at the top of the food chain. Lions are usually social compared to other cats. It is one of the most widely recognized animal symbols in the human culture and wildlife. But can it defeat its relative, the tiger, in a match? Most researchers believe so. certainly fight till its last breath. It is also bigger than the tiger, so out in the wild, the tiger mostly has no chance. Number 7. Rhinoceros. Even though these two animals are very less likely to fight each other because of the fact that they literally live on different continents, it's still believed that a tiger would never be able to defeat an adult rhino. The main advantage this beast has is his tough skin. Even though both are very formidable, but the rhino only has to catch the tiger once. The tiger would have to tire out the rhino and attack it for a while. If the rhino is healthy and of the sufficient size and mass, with a horn at some point the tiger will get killed or badly injured. But the tiger's advantage, the rhino is a very peaceful animal and doesn't start fights randomly like a drunk guy in a bar after midnight. I can't say the same thing for tigers. Number 5. Moose. The moose, or Eurasian elk, is the largest extant species of the deer family. Moose are distinguished by the palmate antlers of the males. They typically inhabit boreal and mixed deciduous forests of the northern hemisphere in temperate to subarctic climates. On average, an adult moose stands 1.8 to 2.1 meters tall, 6 to 7 feet high at the shoulders, and can weigh 850 to 1,580 pounds, or 380 to 720 kilograms. Siberian tigers are among the biggest predators in the world and are known to fight often with moose. Normally, you would think that a tiger would have no problem devouring a moose, but that isn't always the case. The moose is fighting for its life, so then given everything to survive, a kick from a moose can badly injure a tiger, and there have been cases of such incidents. Number 4. Water buffalo. The water buffalo is a large bovine animal frequently used as livestock. They are larger and heavier than domestic buffalo and weigh from 1,300 to 2,600 pounds, 600 to 1,200 kilograms. The largest recorded horns are just under 2 meters long. In Asia, the water buffalo and the Bengal tigers are known to be sworn enemies. There used to be an event in Bangladesh where a tiger and water buffalo were made to fit in a pit. It was the buffalo who nearly always emerged the victor. Although the tiger was ferocious to the extreme, he had no staying power, and after receiving a few horns from this stronger assailant, he would collapse in the center of the arena. And this is also the case in the wild, mostly. And if the tiger starts a fight with more than one buffalo, then it's over for the wildcat. Number 3. Elephant. Elephants are the largest land animals and one of the most unique mammals with their distinctive long trunks, large limp ears, and wide thick legs. They are the real kings of the jungle, but because of their non-predatory nature and peaceful lives, they are not known to be vicious. But when an elephant is provoked, know that it will definitely defend itself and its family, even if that means killing the predator. Tigers often mess around with elephants. They are known to attack their prey by holding from their forelimbs and biting the neck of its victim. But the elephant is always bigger than a tiger. It is not possible for a tiger to take down an elephant. The threatening tusks of the elephant can stab a tiger. A kick from an elephant can break its bones and crush the skull of the tiger. The only possible reason for a fight between a tiger and an elephant is when a tiger attacks the calf of an elephant for food, and even then the adult elephant would do anything to fight the wildcat. Number 2. Hippopotamus. Did you know hippopotamus is Greek for river horse? The animal has been known since ancient times. Hippopotamus are often seen basking in the banks or sleeping in the waters of rivers, lakes, and swamps next to the grasslands. The hippo is a bulky body on stumpy legs, an enormous head, a short tail, and 4 toes on each foot. The body is so dense that it can walk underwater, where they can hold their breath for 5 minutes. In a fight between a hippo and a tiger, usually the hippo is victorious. It has all of the physical advantages over the tiger, as tigers usually hunt alone and may weigh 500 pounds, or 225 kilograms, as compared to the hippo, weighing a staggering 4,000 pounds, or 1,800 kilograms. The tiger might be able to scratch the hippo up some, but it's not likely to do much damage. Accounts recording the number of human deaths per year by hippo attacks range from about 500 to 3,000. Number 1. Porcupine. Tigers can bring down wildebeests and giraffes, but when they try to hunt porcupines, the spiky rodents often come out on top. When the tiger makes the mistake of attacking a porcupine, the porcupine's spine can seriously injure the tiger. These injuries can make it impossible for the tiger to hunt normally, leading them to hunt livestock or even humans. A tiger was once spines ended up in its tongue. Not only the tiger, but the porcupine can also defeat the other wild cats, like the leopard and the lion. What a magnificent creature is that, right? Which one of these animals do you think a tiger would be able to defeat? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.
Like and subscribe right now, or you are going to have bad luck for the rest of the week. Nobody would think their property holds anything but its house above it. But when you explore underneath, that's where things become mysterious. Many people are unaware that their house is sitting on many of the world's strange discoveries that have yet to be found. Don't believe us? Let's have a look at some of the most bizarre backyard discoveries people have made. Number one will definitely make you get a shovel and start digging in your own house. Let's begin. Number 10. Pathway to the pyramids. Now, you might be wondering what could be better than finding an ancient villa under your backyard. Well, how about finding a secret pathway into one of the ancient pyramids? A man in Egypt was digging around in his yard and came across a mysterious entrance. He continued to dig and found himself 33 feet below the ground. When he hit the bottom, he found himself in an ancient tunnel, one that was perfectly preserved and made of stone. Knowing his location and where the tunnel led, he surmised that it went to the ancient pyramids. Fearing breaking the law by entering the tunnel any further, he then called a group of archaeologists to figure out what was going on, and they found that the tunnel was a straight path to the oldest pyramid in Egypt. Furthermore, the tunnel itself was known about by the archaeologists, but it was believed to be a myth. Number 9. A cursed money bag. Now, here's a case of if it's too good to be true, it likely is. A man was tending to some crops in his backyard when he stumbled upon the find of his lifetime, a big bag full of money. It was legit money and it wasn't counterfeit. While most people would have just kept the money to themselves and spent it the way they like, this man had a good conscience, and so he turned the money in to the police. Such a find is required to sit by law for 1 year before being rewarded to the first one who found it. Here's where the twist comes. Not long after the man turned the money into the police, his neighbor went to the police and warned them that the bag of money wasn't just theirs, but that they had buried it because it was cursed. Incredible, right? Upon hearing this, the court then decided to split the money between the man that found it and the daughter of the neighbor who claimed it, and the curse. Unfortunately, though, the man died only a few days before his ruling was handed down, and the father of that man died just a few days after due to a heart attack. Number 8. An ancient 7-Up can. If you watch shows like American Pickers, you'll know that certain classic items are always valuable. One thing you may not expect to be valuable are old soda cans and bottles. But let us tell you that they are, if they are in the right look and condition. Imagine a man's fortune when he found an old 7-Up can in his backyard. If we compare this can's look and a modern can's look, the difference isn't just clear, it is self-evident. Despite the rust, the can is in good condition, and after a little cleaning up process later, we're sure the discoverer has a somewhat valuable collectible in his hands. Number 7. A Ferrari. Now, it is not strange for a car to be in a person's yard. After all, sometimes you need to park your car outside. Or maybe you just have junky or rusty cars laying around that you use for parts. Whatever. However, this is a Ferrari, but it wasn't only in someone's yard, it was buried in someone's yard. It's not often that you find a luxury car buried in your backyard, so how exactly was it found? Well, 2 kids were just digging around in their yard in their house in Los Angeles when they hit something that didn't sound right. So the curious kids kept on digging until they found a part of a car. That was when they told their parents, who then told the local sheriff, and then began the excavation of a Ferrari Dino 246 GTS. The car was from 1974 and was reported stolen, so that explains half the mystery. But how about how it got underground, as it was found 6 to 8 feet underground? How it went inside remains a mystery, as there is nobody who knows anything about the car, not even the tenants or the neighbors or the cops or anyone. Ironically, the Ferrari was in really good condition with only minimal damage. And when the story hit the papers, the news spread about the car. Now a lot of people have called in and tried to buy it. Number 6. Bells. Now from Los Angeles to the Czech Republic, where a man made a discovery of fascinating proportions, and let's just say that it had a certain ring to it. You see, he was digging in the backyard to renovate the plumbing system when all of a sudden he hit something really hard. It was so hard, in fact, that he had to make sure that it was some kind of metal. But he didn't know what kind of metal it was. no reason. But either way, they were there for a long time before the man dug them up. Number 5. A burial ground. There are things I wish I could find out about our land. And then there are also a few things I wish I never find out. One of the never finds is undoubtedly a dead body, or bones. Imagine the horror a kid in Utah must have felt when he decided to dig up his backyard to build a pond, but ended up digging up a bone instead. In the beginning, they thought it was an animal's bone, but another find 2 weeks later revealed the truth, because he dug up a human skull. The bones were then sent to researchers at a university who were shocked to find out that the bones of the man that had been discovered were almost a millennium old. They are now trying to figure out who the bones belonged to and why he was there. It was unclear whether there were more bodies found, and if there were, we can just hope that it wasn't the boy to discover them. How do you think you'd react if you find some human bones in your own backyard one day? Tell us in the comments section. Number 4. Bomb shelter. While not as valuable as a car or even an ancient bell, if you found something like a bomb shelter in your backyard, you'd probably be interested to see what's inside. Now, this wasn't an obvious shelter, though. It was hidden among the trees of the land, but it was there and was able to be entered. And so they did. It just kind of makes you wonder, though, why there was a bomb shelter in this particular house. It's not hard to come up with a reason or two why it could be there. For example, the house itself could have been built during the war, maybe even during the Cold War, where the threat of nuclear destruction seemed like a real thing. Or perhaps it was there for some other reason. It's hard to tell why people do certain things. Regardless of the reason for it being there, we can surely say that the house owners would have been stunned when they found it. But we can bet that they feel a little more safe knowing that they could easily hide in their secret shelter if something unfortunate happens. Number 3. A machine gun. In Calgary, Canada in 2014, a man was walking around in his backyard and came across something between his garage and a fence. He was curious, so he dug it up and found a pillowcase which was full of various items, including a loaded machine gun and a cell phone, which proved that it was buried not many years ago. But how did these items get there? Who put them there, and why were they kept there? These questions have still not been answered, but we can bet you that he's glad that he doesn't have them on his property anymore. Number 2. Villa of the Emperor. Now, what's cooler than finding an ancient creature? How about finding the home of an ancient emperor, more specifically the home of the Emperor of Rome? Sounds great, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to a man in England. While digging in his backyard to fix and replace power lines, he came across a villa. A freaking villa! Now, for those who don't know, a villa is a large country house, one that dates back to ancient Roman times. Sure enough, as he continued to dig, he found more and more of the villa and realized that the architecture wasn't just of ancient Rome, but also of great prominence, as the emperor lived there at some point. Naturally shocked, he then informed the town council, who then informed a group of archaeologists, who then dug up the entire villa, which was surprisingly in great condition. Still, though, you have to wonder what happened to the villa that it went underground, because that is still a mystery. Number 1. Mastodon. One of the funny things about archaeology is that the bones of special animals from the past can really be located just about anywhere, and this includes a backyard in Michigan. Check this out. A contractor was hired to do some work for his neighbor, and during the job, he went and got an excavator and began to dig. When he started digging up the backyard, he stumbled upon something hard, and when he got it out, he was startled to have a large bone in front of him. When he cleaned up the bone, he realized that the bone was not just huge, it was really old and probably belonged to some ancient species that had been extinct from the modern world. In fact, the bone that he found was from a rib cage of a creature, and then over the course of the next few days, 40 more bones were found. These bones were sent to a nearby professor, who then figured out that they were the remains of an ancient mastodon, one that apparently lived in the Ice Age. We can bet that this was one of the guy's best jobs ever, and he must be very proud of his discovery.
Shortly after purchasing his new home, John Sims began to hear rumors about something mysterious buried in the backyard of his new property in Tucson, Arizona. Life in his new home started out as normal and serene, but as time went on, it turned out to be one of the strangest discoveries of his life. This man dug a hole in his backyard. He was not ready for what he discovered there. The old owner of the place had heard those same strange rumors. However, he did not have the courage or the time to corroborate that they were true. On the other hand, the new owner was very determined to find out what was buried in his backyard that was causing people to talk. So, taking a tool, he started digging in no fixed direction, and as he did so, he found something that would eventually change his life. Mr. Sims knew that the purchase of that property was going to be a good one, especially when he discovered the sale, John's friend had made it very clear that he was completely unaware of what might be hiding under the floor there. All he could say was that there was more than met the eye, and that he never had the courage to dig it up. At first, John tried to ignore the strange rumor. He began the move without worries, and did all his things as expected. In spite of everything, curiosity gradually got the better of him, to the point that the desire to know what he was standing on consumed him at every moment, even taking over his nights. What had he buried there? This feeling did not disappear with time. On the contrary, it took hold of him more and more. He felt more and more compelled to unearth the secret and bring the truth to light. Besides, if it was all a lie, he had to know it too. When they closed the deal and finalized the sale of the property, John had half-jokingly asked them to bring a shovel to dig up whatever was there. They both laughed, because they knew that this job required more planning than that. However, John soon had an idea. John was more than determined to find out the truth. The plan he devised would end up taking a little longer to get started than he expected, but he had never been so convinced when he first put his plan of action into action. The possibilities